Good morning to all of you. So today we are going to study the second part of current status of child health in India. If you remember the previous class, we have already studied some statistics related to the infant mortality rate, the neonatal mortality rate, which are the states which have the highest and the lowest, and what are the causes of different mortalities. This is what we have already studied. Now in this today's class we shall be studying, keeping this in mind, what is Government of India doing to combat this childhood diseases. Okay, so we shall be basically discussing the steps which have been taken by Government of India to decrease the different morbidity and mortality rates, and at the end we shall also be studying the preventive measures. Now these are the thrust area. We have 4 thrust area. First is thrust area 1. This is according to National Health Mission. So in neonatal and child health, 3 things are planned. First is essential newborn care, and this essential newborn care is to be given at every delivery points. And what do you mean by essential newborn care? We shall be discussing all these points in the subsequent slides. Okay, so wherever the delivery is there, the essential newborn care has to be provided. And if the baby is referred in the first referral units, then in those units as well as the district hospitals, they should have facility based sick newborn care. And once the child is discharged, we want the care to be continued. So Government of India has planned home-based newborn care and home-based young care, that is HBNC and HBYC program. This is the second area on nutrition. So promotion of optimal infant and young child feeding practices under MA, that is Mother's Absolute Affection Program. Apart from that, we have micronutrient supplementation program in terms of vitamin A and iron and folic acid. We have many children with severe acute malnutrition, so management of children with severe acute malnutrition, and a National Deworming Day. Third thrust area is management of common childhood illnesses. In that, management of childhood diarrheal diseases and acute respiratory infections. Then thrust area 4 is related to immunization. In this, there is intensification of the routine immunization, eliminating measles and Japanese encephalitis related deaths, and polio eradication. Now these were the thrust areas. Now we shall be discussing each of it to some extent, okay, because these are all big topics in themselves. We shall not be going to the details, but we shall be learning what you mean by that. Okay, so first is essential newborn care. So this has to be given in every delivery point. Okay, so what it is: early initiation, exclusive breastfeeding. We know that breastfeeding has to be given within 1 hour of birth, preferably within half an hour, because within half an hour the baby will be very active. The mother also, the adrenaline level of the mothers are also high, babies are also high, so the baby will be, and the mother also will be very alert. The baby also will be alert, and the baby will be feeding. But as soon as this adrenaline levels wanes off, the result is the mother also goes into deep sleep, because she is also exhausted from that the birth, and also baby also goes to sleep. Okay, then if you try to initiate feeding, it becomes very difficult. Okay, so early initiation and exclusive breastfeeding, we know that exclusive breastfeeding has to be practiced from birth till 6 months, and not to be and with this only medication and vitamin supplementation, if it is ordered, that is given. Otherwise, no need to give even a drop of water. The baby should be given only breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life. So that is exclusive breastfeeding. So this has to be started at the delivery point. And second is thermal care. And what all points are included in thermal care? Prompt drying. We know that if you remember the Indian Academy of Pediatrics neonatal resuscitation, we have 30 second slots, 30 seconds. So in that 30 seconds, the only situation where we delay drying is if the baby is a has aspirated meconium, and for that what we do is we do suction and then we go for drying. Otherwise, for all situations we dry the baby, and then there here, even if the baby has aspirated the meconium, we don't delay it. Only thing, we do the suction and then follow it by drying. So it has to be prompt drying. That is very, very important, because we know that children, if you don't manage the heat issues or the warmth, if you don't provide warmth, the issue is the baby is inside the womb at 37 degrees centigrade. You have a labor room which may be around 26 or 27 degrees centigrade, depending on the type of setup the child is coming. So what you have is a sharp fall in temperature from 37 to maybe 26 or 25. Okay, so the baby loses heat at 1 degree per minute if you don't manage heat. So that is the extent. So that is why prompt drying has to be there. Covering at birth, if you see this baby, the head of the baby is covered, because the baby tends to lose heat to a great extent through the head also. Then maximum skin to skin contact. So if you keep the baby between the mother's breast, the mothers there will be skin to skin contact. We delay bathing, we don't give bath as we used to do earlier, and we maintain the warm chain. So this has to be there. So many, all things are there in thermal care. For example, we keep the labor room warm, we keep the windows and doors closed to prevent the draft of air. We receive the baby in a pre-warm towel. Once you dry the baby, you remove the wet linen. Again, you keep the baby warm. You cover the baby and the mother with a towel. All these methods, all this, whatever you use for the baby, we try to keep it and maintain the warm chain. Apart from that, we have some hygiene practices. So this includes cot care and caregiver hand washing. So whoever is giving care, they have to wash the hands before you touch the baby, and after whatever care you want to give, after that also you have to wash. Apart from that, the cord has to be cared. We now don't apply anything to the cord. We just ensure that the cord is kept clean. Okay, so that also hygienic practices has to be maintained. And next is components of FBNC. Okay, facility based newborn care. So this is facility based newborn care. So facility based newborn care, so this facility based newborn care is given in to those babies who are referred to those conditions where the baby cannot be managed maybe in a PHC. Okay, so what we do is the baby needs to be referred in first referral units. So first referral units are community health centers. Okay, CHCs are first referral units. So in facility based newborn care, can be community health setup, and from there the baby also can be referred to a district hospital. So wherever this facility based newborn care is there, we have these three things. First is newborn care corners. We shall be studying what it is. Then newborn stabilization units and special newborn care, that is SNCUs. We have NBCCs, that is newborn care corners, newborn stabilization units, NBSUs, and SNCUs, that is special newborn care units. Okay, so this is available in all facility based newborn care. Now this is newborn care corners. What it is? They are established at every delivery points to provide essential newborn care at birth, soon after the birth. So there is a dedicated space within the delivery room where essential newborn care as well as life-saving care, including resuscitation, is provided to the newborn. So every hospital, whether it is a PHC or whether the baby is not referred to a facility newborn care, but these newborn care corners are present in each and every labor room. Each specified area in our labor room where we give essential newborn care, as well as if the baby needs resuscitation, we now have a specified protocol which babies require resuscitation, which baby do not require resuscitation, and based on that protocol we give the resuscitation. So this basic newborn care corners are available in each labor room. Okay. Apart from that, we have newborn stabilization unit, our facility located within or in the close proximity of the maternity ward, where sick or LBWs newborns are cared for short periods. Okay, the baby the baby is not so well, so what we do is for short periods we keep it. But if the baby requires a longer duration, then the baby is shifted from NBSUs, that is newborn stabilization unit, to special newborn care units. It is a new natal unit in the vicinity of a labor room to provide special care. All care except assisted ventilation, major surgery, all other care is given in SNCUs. Okay, so this is a photograph of SNCUs. You can see this how it is, and these are a focus diagram of these beds. Okay. This is the first referral unit, where we provide comprehensive obstetric care services also. This is a photograph of CHC. Okay, so here we have facilities for cesarean section, newborn care, emergency care of sick children, full range of family planning services, safe abortion services of sexually transmitted infections or reproductive tract infections. There is availability of blood and referral transport services. So these are the services which are provided in first referral units. Okay. Now we have home-based newborn care under this is under National Rural Health Mission. So so this was implemented in 2011 and it is revised in 2014. Okay. So if you see this incentivized, what do you mean by incentivized? उसका मतलब ये है कि आशा वर्कर, we know full form of ASHA, that is accredited social health activist. So when she visits, we will be studying the schedule. So for each visit she will get a specific amount. Okay, maybe 150, 250 depending on which phase it is. So that is called as intensivized. Apart from her routine care, once she has these visits to the newborn, she will get incentive for that. Okay, or special allowances for that. That is called as incentivized. So ASHA worker will make visit to all newborns and the mothers. What are these days? First day, third day, 7th, 14th, 21, 28 and 42nd day. So these are the days where she has to visit all newborns and their mothers. And what she will be doing? She will be recording the weight of the newborn in Mother Child Protection Card, that is MCP card. She will ensure that the baby gets first dose of BCG. Sorry, not first dose. She ensures that the baby gets BCG and the first dose of OPV and DPT vaccination. Both mother and newborn are safe till 42 days and the registration of birth has been done. So these are the activities which she will be doing, and for that she will be visiting the child on first day, third day, 7th day, 14th day, 21st day, 28th day and the 42nd day. So this was implemented in 2011 and this was revised in 2014. Now is in this what we it was found by in this previous program, 42nd day was the last day, okay, for visit by ASHA worker. Okay, now a new program has come up which is called as home based care for young child program. Okay, so what Government of India wanted, the visits to newborns to be extended beyond 42nd day. For that this program came up, that is home based care for young child program, HBYC. So under National Health Mission, home based care for young child program, that is HBYC, was rolled out as an extension of HBNC, home based newborn care. This was extended to home based young child program. Okay, and this is done in all the areas. So realizing the importance of interventions for reducing diarrhea, pneumonia and undernutrition, including role of WASH, that is water, sanitation and hygiene, on overall child survival development. So this gap in health system was crucial. Okay, so we even after 42 days the child still requires some supervision, because we are a country where we have a large number of children who are suffering from diarrhea, pneumonia and undernutrition, which contribute to a great extent dent on the mortality. So for this we have the role of WASH, that is water, sanitation and hygiene. So this is very important on the overall child survival and development. So this gap has to be addressed. So additional home visits by ASHAs between 3rd and 15th months. Okay, so from the 3rd month to 15th month, this was this was proposed by HBYC program to fill this gap. Okay, so when she will be visiting 42nd day, so this was home based newborn care. After that she will be visiting on 3rd month, 6th month, 9th month, 12th month and 15 months. Okay, so what will be her activities now? To promote early initiation of breastfeeding, exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months, continued breastfeeding till 2 years of life, along with adequate complementary feeding, and to ensure age appropriate immunization and early childhood development. Okay, so this is a diagram where you see ASHA worker visiting the children. So she will be visiting on 3rd month, 6th, so that visit ended on 42nd day. So this is an extension where she will be visiting these children of the 3rd month, 6th month, 9th, 12th and 15th month. And the basically focus will be exclusive breastfeeding and continuing breastfeeding till 2 years. Apart from that, weaning practices, complementary feeding has to be initiated, and ensure age appropriate immunization. Age appropriate immunization का क्या मतलब है, किस एज में कौन सा immunization लगना है. So that is to be reinforced along with early childhood development. Okay. Apart from that, we have another program which is called as MA, that is Mother's Absolute Affection. Okay. So so Mother's Absolute Affection is a nationwide program by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So the basic attention is on promotion of breastfeeding, and also provision of counseling services for supporting breastfeeding through health system. Okay, so here is the program has been named MA to signify the support of lactating mothers from the family members and at the health facilities to breastfeed successfully. So here the two concepts are there. The reinforcement from the family members and also from the health personnel for successful breastfeeding. So that is why this program was initiated, which focused on promotion of breastfeeding and provision of counseling services. Okay. Now these are the activities which are done. First is in MA. First is awareness generation, enabling building an enabling environment and demand generation through mass media and mid media. Okay, so different awareness program has to be there for successful breastfeeding. So first is you create an environment where, suppose if the mother is in the family has to be supported for breastfeeding, and then is for promotion of breastfeeding, media also has to be roped in, so that they can generate the message in different facility. Next is facility level intervention, then community level intervention and monitoring. First you create the awareness. Second is you have facility level intervention. So for that we know that BFHI, that is we have 10 steps of baby friendly hospital initiative. So this has to be implemented and displayed at all health facilities. So wherever there are chances that the pregnant and lactating mothers will be there, so these 10 steps of BFHI has to be followed. And next is counseling mothers who are attending antenatal clinic, labor room, postnatal wards, SNCUs, pediatric ward, postnatal ward, follow-up OPD and immunization clinic. Okay, so these mothers have to, because mothers will be attending all these areas, so the mothers needs to be counseled on early initiation of breastfeeding, skin to skin contact, exclusive breastfeeding and appropriate complementary feeds. Next is breastfeeding will be an important component of discharge plan and advice. It's not just writing what medicines to be taken, but breastfeeding has to be reinforced during discharge also. Then capacity building of health. What is capacity building? Suppose if you want the healthcare personnel to talk to patients, unless and until they know, they will not be able to inform others. So we need to give special training to healthcare personnel at different levels, right from the ASHA to the higher up. Okay, so this is called as capacity building of health workers. And at community level intervention, again you have to improve the capacity building of community health workers. And then you have to conduct the mothers meeting for lactation support on village health nutrition days. Okay, this is VHND days, village health nutrition days at sub centers. So this is done every month, usually on Thursdays or any other days. This is different in different states. So village health nutrition days are celebrated at centers. So this mothers have to be mothers meeting has to be conducted for lactation support. And continued counseling on infant and young child feeding practices to the mothers. So it's not only breastfeeding, but then after six months complementary feeding has to be started. And many a times this complementary feeding is not started, or if it is started, it is not well planned, and that is why many children suffer from different states of malnutrition. So there has to be continued counseling on infant, young and child feeding practices to the mothers. But this program has to be monitored also. So this program is monitored by different health agencies. There is external assessment, and awards are also there. That is 10,000 rupees an award is there for one facility. So the committee, there is a MA committee and state nodal officer. So they will do the monitoring and find out whether these steps have been conducted or not. Okay. So this was about MA. Next is micronutrient supplementation program for vitamin A. The recommended doses in national immunization schedule is, so this is a bottle of vitamin A solution. So what we need is, we need 9 doses. We need 9 doses of vitamin A supplementation. The first dose is given along with measles vaccine, that is at 9 months. The next dose will be given by yearly. Okay, so by annual. This will be from second dose to the ninth dose. So this is given twice a year for from 12th month, that is from the 1 year to 5 years of age. Okay, so that way the baby gets next. So this is started along with measles dose. And then what we do is, in the month of April, or in the as well as in the month of October, November, we give 1 teaspoon. So 1 teaspoon of this vitamin A syrup contains 1 lakh unit is given at 9 months. Remaining is 2 lakhs units. Okay, so these are given to the children. Okay, so these are given twice a year. So total of 9 doses. First dose to be started along with measles, and then in the month of April to October, November. So this has to be given. So remaining 8 doses are 2 lakh units, and first is 1 lakh unit. Okay. Next is iron and folic acid supplementation is given. For that we have 3 different age groups. So first is syrups. This is a syrup, iron with folic acid and xylocobalamin syrup, which comes in the name of Iron Fast. So this has been recommended by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India in 2013. And we have National Iron Plus Initiative. Okay, this is called as NIPI. So this program is under NIPI. Okay, National Iron Plus Initiative. So for children from 6 months to 59 months, bi-weekly 1 ml of iron and folic acid syrup. So this is iron folic acid syrup. So this contains 20 mg of elemental iron and 100 microgram of folic acid. So this has to be given throughout the year. Okay, and what it contains, this contains a auto dispenser, means a dropper which will give only 1 ml at a time. Okay, so the dose can be well maintained. So whenever we are managing anemia, deworming also has to be done along with that, because worms also cause anemia. Okay, so for that we give it twice a year. So this is twice a week. Iron and folic acid is to be given twice a week, and deworming is given twice a year. Okay, biannual deworming for anti-helminth control. So what we do is albendazole 200 mg for children from 12 to 1 to 2 years, and 400 mg for aged 3 to 5 years. Okay, so this is how it is given. Now, as for children for 5 to 10 years, we have now tablets. That earlier one was syrup. So one weekly, that was twice a week, but here it is only once a week. Okay, once a week iron and folic acid tablet, which contains 45 mg of elemental iron and 400 micrograms of folic acid. So this is given throughout the year. Okay, apart from that we give albendazole. So this is given twice a year. Then we have WIFs, that is weekly iron folic acid supplements. So this is given to children between 10 to 19 years of age. Children who are studying from 6th to 12th class, they are in government schools, government aided municipal school, and those adolescent girls who are not attending school now, who have dropouts. So they are selected for this program, and for this from the word itself, it is weekly iron folic acid supplements. So this contains 100 milligram of elemental iron and 500 micrograms of folic acid. We have fixed days, and on that day that is given. So screening, apart from the distribution, the screening of target groups for moderate and severe anemia, and if the cases are severe or if it is moderate, then the children has to be referred. And also biannual deworming, that is 400 milligram of albendazole. So this is given. And apart from that, information and counseling for improving dietary intake and for taking action for prevention of intestinal worm infestation. So two things are focused here, dietary intakes, because there are for example, we know that vitamin C causes an increase in this iron absorption. So whenever we are counseling, we have to focus on, suppose if you include lemon along with salad, so this what will help is, it will help in the absorption of iron. Okay, apart from that, hygienic practices has to be done for prevention of intestinal worm infestation. So this iron folic acid weekly iron folic acid supplementation, so it's not only just giving our tablets weekly, but we are also doing in this, we are including all those children who are studying from class 6 to class 12. We are also in a lookout of the dropout girls, adolescent girls. Fixed days are there where we give this iron and folic acid tablets. Twice a year we give albendazole. And we also we do a counseling on dietary intake for anemia. What are the foodstuffs, locally available foodstuffs which contains iron. So we encourage use different AVAs to reinforce this. Then we also use a when the children are included, so when the children are given education on this, they will be informing their family members. So child to parent approach, so this is called as child to parent approach. So this also is used for this. And we also counsel the children on prevention of intestinal worm infestation. Then deworming, see, in all those programs we have included deworming, but you may have children who may not be having anemia, but the parents have come and told that the child is having, because worms can be seen with the naked eye. Okay, so during the biannual rounds, albendazole twice we give, and recommended doses of albendazole is child 12 to 23 months, single tablet albendazole, which contains 200 milligram. And for this, the tablet has to be broken down. Then we can mix with maybe safe water, maybe breast milk, and then this can be given to in the spoon. and after 2 to 5 years the child can take a single tablet which contains 400 mg. So from 12 to 23 it is 200 mg, and from 24 to 59 it is 400 mg. It is a single tablet. Now, as apart from that, we have a National Deworming Day. So this is this we celebrate on 10th of February and 10th of August in all states and union territories. Okay, so all children are provided with deworming tablets in schools on 10th February. So it's not only providing a deworming tablets, but various health promotion activities related to wash, that is water, sanitation and hygiene, are organized in school as well as Anganwadis, because we want because we know that these wash activities are basically promoted to prevent the intestinal worms. So we focus on the preventive aspects as well as we give this albendazole to all children on 10th February and 10th August, because this has to be given twice. Now, on National Deworming Day, this is a slide of 10th February 2020. We do three things. First is National Deworming Day. So our basic intention is to deworm all preschool and school-age children between 1 to 19 years of age. So this is done in Anganwadis and school. And next is to combat parasitic worm infection. All the children will be dewormed using effective and risk-free chewable tablets. So these tablets are available where we give this. And third is albendazole is given because it is a universally acceptable tablet. Now we have two groups. One is 1 to 2 years and second is 2 to 19 years. From 2 to 19 years we have to give the full tablet, and for 1 to 2 years we have to give half tablet. So children and adolescent children who could not be dewormed on National Deworming Day due to sickness, so they are given on mop-up day on 7 days after. So those children who are not available on February 10th, they will be given deworming tablet on February 17th. So that is called as mop-up day. Same thing on August 10th, if the child is not coming to school, so he can be given this albendazole on 17th of August. So this is how this mop-up round is there. Then managing severely malnourished children. So this in itself is a big topic. I will be just focusing on different steps. So first is you have to identify which children are severely malnourished. So once the child is assessed on severely malnourished, so we have different issues which are related to malnourishment. So step 1 is we have to manage hypoglycemia. Step 2 is we have to manage hypothermia. Step 3 is we have to manage dehydration, shock. Step 4, correct electrolyte imbalance. Step 5 is treat infection and give emergency eye care for corneal ulceration. And step 6 is we give micronutrients. Okay. So first is you manage hypoglycemia, hypothermia, dehydration and shock if it is there, electrolyte imbalances. Treat infections and give emergency eye care for corneal ulceration, give micronutrients. Okay. So then initial feeding has to be given. Step 8 is catch up growth, and step 9 we teach the mothers the importance of stimulation and how to make and use toys. So these all activities are done in nutritional rehabilitation centers. All those children who are moderately who are having severely malnourishment, so this is this is assessment of mid-arm circumference, okay, by using a Shakir's tape, and once this is in red color, this indicates that the child is having severe malnutrition. Okay, so national rehabilitation centers are present which are providing medical and nutritional therapy with severe acute malnourished children under 5 years of age with medical complications. So here we not only we give care to the child, but also mothers are also there with the child. So we improve the skills of the mothers on child care, and we also improve the feeding practices, so that when the mother is sensitized, she will be giving proper care to the child. Okay. Then is management of diarrheal diseases. For that we have zinc and ORS. So this is given to all those children who are coming to the district hospital, CHC, PST, sub centers, etc. So whenever the child is having diarrhea, they are given 1 or 2 tablets of packets of ORS and 14 tablets of zinc, and the how to use it, how much to use, this is all cancelled. Apart from that, there is intensified diarrhea control fortnight. Okay, fortnight is 15 days. Okay, so this intensified diarrhea control fortnight is celebrated from 28th July to 8th of August. This started in 2014. Okay, the main aim is 0 deaths due to childhood diarrhea. Okay, so so that is the different ways how Government of India is fighting. So in intensified diarrhea control fortnight, that is IDCF, so during this, the health workers will visit the households of under 5 children. They conduct community level awareness generation activities. They distribute ORS packet to the families with children under 5 years of age. ORS corners are set up in health facilities and Anganwadis, where people can come and get their packets of ORS. Okay, so different flavors are also there. So this is a photo of ORS in a orange flavors. Okay, so these type of ORS packets are also available. So in intensified diarrhea control fortnight, there we take this ORS packets to the doorstep, and we distribute to all children to all families who are having under 5 children, because diarrhea occurring in under 5 is major case of mortality and morbidity. So this is given, community level awareness program is given, and ORS corners are available where people can get their respective packets. Then management of respiratory diseases, we have 2 things. One is the ASHA workers. The ASHA workers are given this oral cotrimoxazole. Suppose if the child is having non-severe pneumonia, then cotrimoxazole tablet as a first line drug, this is given. So this is supplied at sub central level, and this is the drug for community based management by frontline workers. Okay, so first we start with oral cotrimoxazole. But if the child is not managed with that, then the child will be referred, and amoxicillin will be given by the physician. Okay, for non-severe severe pneumonia. Okay, and 10% of these children, they require further support with use of oxygen and injectable antibiotic. So what we have to remember is, by the frontline health workers, we for non-severe pneumonia, we start with oral cotrimoxazole, and but if the child cannot be managed, then when the child is brought to a healthcare facility, we start with amoxicillin. So this is given by the physician, and 10% of these children will require the use of oxygen as well as injectable antibiotics. Okay. Now there is intensification of the routine immunization. We have a routine immunization program. Apart from that, year of intensification of routine immunization. So this started in 2012-13. Okay. So the aim was improving the immunization coverage rates across poor performing districts, and says so as to attain global immunization vision and strategy goals of 90% coverage at national and more than 80% at district level. So we know that immunization is a program which has monthly monitoring. Okay, so Government of India has they have identified places which are having a poor coverage. So when in all areas which are having a poor coverage of immunization, the goal is at least 90% of the national target has to be fulfilled, and district level more than 80%. Now what are the activities and intensification of routine immunization? First is improved communication and social mobilization is done. Robust and regular program reviews. Unless and until we have a regular monitoring program, we will not be able to identify. Comprehensive micro planning is required. Strengthening the cold chain and vaccine logistics system. So this cold chain, see this is all program. Just suppose if a child is getting a vaccine at a remote village, so this requires a close coordination from the national headquarters to that setup, and all this requires so many people are involved. Okay, so what we require is a comprehensive micro planning, so that each child gets each immunization at the specified time, by maintaining a specified cold chain. Also special catch up round through immunization weeks, so those children who have been left behind, immunization weeks can be celebrated. For example, if you have been listening to news for COVID vaccination also, this is not related to COVID, but I want to tell this about the immunization weeks. So different times, now we had 3 days of intensive immunization, okay, related to COVID, where all states were asked to celebrate for 3 days, so that more and more people can be invited to take this vaccine. Similar to that, we have immunization weeks. So in those places where the immunization not so good, for special catch up round. Then piloting the Tika Express. Tika Express is in the Tika Expresses are vehicle where we take the vaccination at the doorstep. Okay, we take the so this was started in Rajasthan. Tika Expresses, a small pilot. It started as a pilot project in Rajasthan, and then in those places where the vaccination is poor, so we take mobile vehicles are used, and vaccines are given at the doorstep, and so that they can come and complete their immunization schedule. Improved surveillance systems, strengthen partnerships, and operational research activities are also a part of intensification of routine immunization. Now, Japanese encephalitis is very common in Assam, West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, and Jharkhand. Okay, so for those children, so it is given between 16 to 18 months at the time of first booster dose of DP vaccine. So SA 1442JE, that is Japanese encephalitis vaccine, was introduced under Universal Immunization Program UIP, and this 181 endemic districts were identified which were present in these states, and another dose is given at 9 months along with the measles vaccine. Okay, so two doses are there. First dose is given at the time of first booster dose of DTP vaccine, and another dose is added along with the measles vaccine. Okay, so this is how the vaccine is given. Now, measles also causes significant mortality, and statistics says that 360 children die every day due to measles. Okay, so they recommend measles. We know that measles vaccine is given at 9 months. For those parents who can afford, MMR is to be given twice, one at 15 to 18 months, and second at school entry at 4 to 6 years of age. So this MMR has to be given twice, and this is a step towards eliminating measles related deaths. Then for polio eradication, you all have must heard about the Pulse Polio program, which we have every now and then. And World Polio Day is celebrated on every year on 24th October, and January 2020, this marks the 9 years since the last case of polio was reported in India. Okay, so apart from that, we have this OPV and IPV. This is given, which led to the establishment of Global Polio Eradication Initiative. Okay. Now, what steps have to be taken for prevention of mortality and morbidity of children? First is prenatal nutrition. If you remember the previous slide, we studied the factors. So once you know the factors, we can manage. So in that day, I was talking about the health of the adolescent girls. If the health of the adolescent girls is good, then they are going to produce healthy babies. Apart from that, prenatal nutrition also plays a very important role. We have to focus on giving good nutrition to the pregnant ladies, so that they can produce healthy babies. Next is prevention of infection. So neonatal tetanus has to be prevented. We know that pregnant ladies are given 2 doses of tetanus, and children also needs to be given under a universal immunization program, and to protect the children against 6 vaccine preventable diseases. Okay. Next is breastfeeding has to be promoted at all levels, right from the antenatal period to, and this has to be continued to 2 years. We know that breastfeeding decreases gastrointestinal respiratory infection and also protein energy malnutrition. Growth monitoring has to be done. We know that road to health chart is maintained. You must have listened to assessment of growth and development by Anu madam, where she has shown different charts to you. So these are different ways of growth monitoring. So growth monitoring is done. We know that the Anganwadi, whenever the child is there, they are not only education, but growth monitoring is done at that level also. Okay. So with this monitoring chart has to be maintained so that you can identify those children who are at risk. Family planning in smaller step, that is at least 3 years gap between 2 children has to be maintained, so that the children, the infant as well as child survival can be improved. Okay. Next is sanitation. We know that sanitation goes hand in hand with infection. So if your poor sanitation environmental condition, they exposes the child to various infections. So this has to be managed. Good wash activities which we discussed earlier, they have to be practiced. Then provision of primary health care. Okay. So good maternity care, and for that we coordinate with local DAIs so that they can collaborate and they can work as a team, so that whenever the child is born, the child will be healthy. Then socio-economic development also is very, very important, because once your socio-economic development is there, the child mortality and morbidity goes down. So for that, education has to be promoted, improvement of nutritional standard, improvement in housing conditions, growth of agriculture industry. So these are all different ways which has an impact on the child health. Then educated women. If the woman is educated, she will marry at the right age, she will produce the baby at the right age, and she will be able to take care of the baby better. So this all reduce the significant mortality and morbidity. And if the mother is educated, she can search. Now is a mobile age where you have smartphones, which has been distributed by government to poor people also. So if the mother is educated, she can search the internet and try to find out valuable information related to care of children. Okay. So to conclude, child's health status of India is very poor, and there are wide interstate disparities in the countries, which you have seen. Suppose if you see this infant mortality rate, Kerala has 5, and Uttar Pradesh is having 47. So that is the status of health. So though child health shows improvement over the year, but still India is far behind in terms of child health standards because of the increasing population of the country. We know that India is the second densely populated after China, and because of this huge population and various other factors, we are not able to come up to a great level. So child health status is in a very pity condition. Overall health status is not improvement without the improvement in health condition of the children. So if we are in a position to give better health, so Government of India has taken various initiatives which we have discussed, and parameters are steadily and gradually improving. So we as healthcare workers should try to promote all these steps so that our children stay safe and stay healthy, and so that we have a healthier nation. So that was all from my side. Thank you for a patient listening.